Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Adrian Roos. I'm a software engineer on the Android framework team.
I'm Andrii. I'm also a software engineer on Android frameworks, and I work on multi-display.
Hi, I'm Jisun from Samsung Mobile. I'm engineering director.
So by now, I'm sure you've all seen the announcement that we are partnering with Samsung to make foldables a thing on Android. And today, we're diving a bit deeper into what that means and what we're doing to support you developers with targeting foldable devices and similar form factors. And Jisun is here to talk a bit more about what Samsung is doing and share more information about their device. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jisun.
OK.
Thanks.
Thank you. So again, I'm Jisun from Samsung Mobile. And I'm going to talk about the new form factor device, which you actually announced yesterday at the Samsung Developer Conference at Moscow Center. OK. So I will cover more information about the device itself. And also, we'll talk about the experience the new foldable device will bring to the users. We all know that the smartphone has been providing new experiences for the last 10 years. And it actually changed the way people think, act, and also communicate. Additionally, it also opened up a lot of new opportunities for the developers. Now we believe a foldable phone is one of the next game changers, which will provide a very unique experience to the users and also new opportunities for the developers to drive innovations. OK, so now let's talk about the first Samsung foldable phone. The first Samsung foldable phone is designed to be multi-display with 2 screens and also supports a multi-active window for a better experience, user experience. So let's take a first look at what the actual configuration of the display on the device looks like. So this is the main display when the device is unfolded. The main display is large enough to provide a very unique experience. With just more surface area it provides, the experience becomes richer and more immersive. The experience was hardly achievable even from the existing large screen smartphones. In addition to the richer and the immersive experience from a single large screen, true multitasking will become also available to utilize this large screen with up to 3 multi-active windows. When the phone is actually folded, we still have very useful and portable cover display to use. In this mode, the experience is very similar to your daily smartphone use. But compared to the main display, the experience is more to be focused and handy and quick interaction to actually leverage the small screen. So having said that, here are some numbers that you may be interested in. This is the specs and the dimensions of the actual screens. So 4.58-inch cover display provides 21:9 HD plus resolution with 420 dpi screen density and 320 dp smallest width. 7.3-inch main display supports 4.2-3 QXGA plus resolution with the same 420 dpi screen density with 585 dp smallest width. These are the numbers your app may need to know. Now I will show you some expected user experience with some examples. So comparing the user experience between the existing smartphone and foldable main display, this foldable phone can actually allocate wider and larger display access to the application, and it actually enables the contents on the screen to be richer and more detailed, as you can see from this screen. On the cover screen, when device is folded, I said the experience can be optimized to provide quick and easy access and interaction, while the device is still fully functional, like a normal smartphone. Access to the quick panel, or notification, or call, or messagings are good examples to highlight the best use of a cover display. We know that you may not want to just unfold your phone to take an incoming call. While the cover display and main display, each one provides its own very unique experience by itself, the experiences between them are not separate nor disconnected. Rather, the user experience between the displays is very continuous and connected seamlessly. As an example, if you want to search for the location of Moscow Center from a map, you can do that with your phone folded. However, if you unfold your phone, the application still continues to run. Even more, unfolding the phone actually provides more information with more visual clues, like what are nearby and what's the location to the other point of interest. Using the Gallery app is similar. The app experience continues between the folded mode and also unfolded mode. Multi-active windows for multitasking is also one of the key features of the foldable phone. So while watching a YouTube video, if you want to browse a website, you can just open a browser and browse the website while your video still keep playing. Moreover, if your friend actually sends a message and the message notification pops up, what you can do is just to grab that message and drag it to a third window, like this, to continue chatting and browsing while your video still keep playing. So we have discussed the expected experience with the new foldable device. So now Adrian from Google will talk about developer guide and also some Android platform level support to make your applications best fit for the foldables.
Thanks for sharing that, Jisun. So let's talk a bit more about how you can take advantage of foldables in your apps and kind of the guidelines that we recommend to do so. So first up is screen continuity. Screen continuity is really the concept, is what we call the concept of continuing what you're currently doing after you fold or unfold the device. And in the example here, for example, you have a map you're looking at on a folded device, and you would like to see maybe a bit more about the surroundings of the place you're looking at. So as a user, you unfold the phone, and with a continuous experience, you're still looking at the same place, your state is maintained, and the phone can take now a bit more advantage of the form factor and show you more about what's going on around this place. And this is actually not really a new thing in Android, right? We've had to deal with similar situations before with things like screen rotation or changing screen sizes, or sorry, changing window sizes in multi-window. So why should you care about continuity when you build your app? Well, users unfold their devices for a reason, and usually that's because they want to dive deeper into the task they're currently doing. So that really works best when they are not interrupted in their experience when doing so and can continue where they left off before unfolding. So for a satisfying user experience, it's really important that this works well. That seems great. Now, how do you actually pull this off? Well, as I said, Android is familiar with this, and we've built a configuration change system to deal with that. Folding and unfolding the device will be treated as a configuration change in the screen size and screen layout categories. And to support you with that, the Android system by default recreates your activities when a configuration change happens. This has the advantage of taking care of any layout changes you might want to make when taking advantage of the new configuration. But it also means that you, as the app, are responsible for restoring the state the user was in after the activity is recreated. To support you with that, we have the on-safe instance state facility. And we're also introducing a new Jetpack library called ViewModel to support you with that. Alternatively, you could also decide to handle the configuration change yourself by just applying it and adjusting your layout. To do that, you can declare that you can handle the configuration change in your Android manifest, but that means that you'll have to manually adjust the layout to the new screen size and new configuration. And for the best experience, make sure to correctly implement multi-window and to declare your activity as resizable. Now, next up, we're making some changes to the lifecycle in multi-window. You can see the current behavior on the left, and that is that only the activity that the user last touched is in the resumed state, while all the others are in the paused state. Now, that's a bit confusing to users because it's not immediately obvious why one activity is a bit more interactive and why other activities are in a less interactive state. And it's also one more thing you have to keep in mind as a developer when you target multi-window. So to make things simpler, we're introducing multi-resume mode. In multi-resume mode, it's pretty simple, really. All the activities in multi-window that are at the top and are visible are all in the resumed state. Now, Android Pie didn't ship with this behavior originally, and so we're making this an opt-in behavior in Android Pie. It will only be applied if both the app developer opts in and the device manufacturer actually implements this feature according to our spec. But note that in future versions of Android, we are expecting to make this behavior the mandatory behavior across all apps and devices that run on the next version of Android. So let's say you have an app and want to take advantage of the simplified lifecycle. How do you opt in? Well, again, it's pretty simple. You add this one flag to your Android manifest. There's one caveat, though, because there are now multiple activities that could be resumed at the same time. It could also be that it's more than one activity from your app's process. And so be really cautious around code that stores the one resumed activity, because there might now be more than one of those. And also be cautious around libraries and frameworks that might make the same assumptions. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Andrii, who's going to talk about multi-window, multi-display.
Thank you, Adrian. So let's talk a bit more about multi-screen devices. So as you know, starting with Android O, an activity can be launched on a non-default display. Let's see what it actually means for your activity. First of all, when an activity is on a non-default display, it means that the activity context, which is a visible entity, is different from non-visual application context, also available from broadcast receivers and content providers. The context of a visible entity will be always adjusted for the display area where it is shown. For example, if you use the same API to get the current display and use different context types to ask for it, you will get different results. The current display, you can get it from the activity, and the application context will always give you the default display. Different contexts also mean different resources and configurations. They will be automatically updated for you. all you need to do is just to request them from the correct context. Usually, when you want to adjust your UX for metrics of the currently available screen area, you should be using an activity. Keep in mind that a user may move your activity from one screen to another at any point. In most cases, you can expect displays to have different sizes, densities, and resolutions. This means that an activity that was moved will probably get a configuration change, as Adrian has covered before. And if it declared to handle the change, it will be notified with a new config. If not, it will be relaunched. To deliver the best possible experience, both for foldable and for multi-display devices, we really encourage you to handle configuration changes whenever it's possible. And if your app really needs to know what display it is currently on, you can check in onCreate and onConfiguration change. These are good points to do that. So what if you want to take advantage of these additional screens? How do you use them? So the first step is to actually get the list of all displays that are available in the system by checking with Display Manager. The displays will have many different characteristics. So you can check their flags, metrics, and state to find the one that suits your needs. For example, you can look for a large screen to present your media content or filter out the displays that are currently off. Once you have determined what display you want to use, you can launch your activity there using this Activity Options API available in Android O. Remember that all existing intent resolution and launch mode rules still apply. So for example, if you want a new instance of an activity, you may want to use corresponding flags in Android Manifest to allow multiple instances and use new task for this launch. Sometimes the system may restrict activity launches to some certain displays, for example, private displays. In this case, a call to start an activity will throw a security exception. You can expect this and wrap the start with try-catch. Remember that there are several platforms that actually have multi-display devices. Phones with different screen configurations is just one example that we have covered today. Next, there is desktop mode, when you connect your phone to a larger screen for improved productivity or entertainment. Another example is Android apps running on Chrome OS. In both of these cases, the apps are usually running in freeform windowing mode, and the user expects them to be freely and smoothly resizable. Last but not least is automotive Android. There may be many screens in a car, and multiple users may be interacting with different displays at the same time. For example, kids in the back seats may be playing same or different games while the driver is using navigation. For apps in general, there shouldn't be too many differences on what platform it's running on. To verify your app behavior, on any Android device running O or above, you can create a simulated display through developer options and launch your activity there. Unfortunately, at this moment, simulated display does not handle touch. We are working on improving this experience in the upcoming releases, and we are going to be adding new developer tools. With all these new and existing platforms, you can choose to simply optimize your app or build some unique multi-screen experience. You can decide whether you want to support multiple activity instances, test your app, and set corresponding launch modes. Don't forget that in this case, multiple activities may be focused and receive user input at the same time. Also, consider using a shared source of data with multiple view models in your app and take advantage of other architecture components. With that, back to Adrian.
Thanks, Andrii. So we've talked about what's available today. Let's also look a bit more about what we're going to do in the future to support you with targeting foldables and multi-display devices. In the short term, this applies mostly for Android Pie, we're working on developer guidelines, and we're going to show you how to best target foldables and multi-display devices. We're also working on a blog post that's going to go live in the following days, which will have more information about everything we talked about. And we're also working with Samsung to release an emulator where you can develop and test your apps against the configuration change behaviors and the multi-resume behaviors that their device is going to have. Looking a bit more into the into the future, with future versions of Android, we're implementing support in AOSP for foldables and multi-display devices. And as part of this, we're also going to improve the AOSP emulator, so it will have support for simulating all those foldable and multi-display behaviors, as Andrii also mentioned. Finally, some pointers on where you can find more information. In the following days, as I mentioned, we'll have this blog post up. There's also a Samsung developer site where you will find more information about Samsung's devices and their guidelines. And for testing your apps, the Samsung emulator will also be available on their website sometime in Q4. OK. At this point, I would also like to thank you for all the amazing experiences you developers are building for Android. And we're really excited to see what you will do next and what you will create next on this new form factor of foldable devices. Thank you.